Greetings from the other side. Today we begin as the Invisible Man. Welcome to our session on Go and Preach. Today I want to talk about the use of gospel tracts. I am a fan of gospel tracts. I love gospel tracts. Now, I've had the privilege of teaching a few classes on evangelism, and when I teach, my students often get weary of me saying that statement. I love gospel tracts. They are a wonderful tool in the hand of an evangelistically minded person. George Whitefield, the famous evangelist from England, is said to have been converted by reading a tract. A gospel tract is a small booklet, or a leaflet, or nowadays they make them on the size of a business card that has an explanation of the gospel on the back. Tracts have been used for centuries. The roots of them can be traced all the way back even before Gutenberg's printing press, where the Bible was first mass-produced. There are so many different kinds of tracts and types of tracts. There are tracts for nearly every occasion. You can get them printed with your church's name on them. You can get Christmas tracts or Easter tracts or just everyday kind of tracts. I have some favorite ones that I'm going to recommend to you and as we go. But firstly, I want to show you how we can use them to be a witness of the salvation that comes through faith in Jesus Christ in our sphere of influence on a daily basis. So I've done this in my book. I've listed a few rules of engagement. When it comes to using tracts, I have about five rules that I'm going to give to you, and hopefully this can be a blessing to you as you step out to share your faith. And rule number 1, carry tracts with you everywhere you go if possible. I have made this a custom in my life that I often, maybe not all the time, but I used to do it a lot more, but I would carry tracts with me in my pocket almost everywhere that I go. And you can keep them in your car, in your pocket, in your wallet, just about anywhere. Carry them with you, and you will find that God is going to give you multiple opportunities along the way to share the tract with other people. That's rule number 1. Carry tracts with you everywhere you go. Rule number 2, ask God to give you an opportunity to give the tract to an open heart. When we first start carrying tracts around with us, many times we struggle with fear, and we're afraid, we have the fear of man, and we don't actually want to give them away to real people. And that's okay. I would encourage you as you first start out, as you're learning to be a witness, to take the tracts and leave them in places where people will find them. In the beginning, when I first started, when God really started to get a hold of me and handing out tracts, it might have been kind of funny to watch me as I would sneak around places, making sure nobody was looking around pillars, kind of like 007 or on Mission Impossible. You're looking around, making sure nobody can see you, and then sliding the tract on a table and running and hiding quickly so nobody can see you. And that's fine when you first start out. But I want you to grow some courage and ask God to give you some courage where you could actually begin to hand them to real live people as you're walking and talking and living your everyday life. And a great way to get somebody to take a tract is to go up to somebody and say, hey, did you get one of these? And just hand it to them. And quite often they will take it and say, oh, what is it? And that would be a great opportunity to have a conversation about the gospel. And that is actually rule number 3. Use the tract as an opportunity to preach the gospel to someone, not as an excuse to avoid preaching the gospel to someone. Those of people who know me and have followed me around in some evangelistic endeavors, they will notice that this is one of the main ways that I use to open the door of a conversation with a complete stranger. It's one of the main ways that I use to begin a conversation. As I give them a tract, I say, hey, did you see this? Or did you get one of these? And then they inevitably ask, oh, what is it? And then I can say, oh, it is a gospel tract. And then that right away, it lets the guard down of a person who maybe would be a little skeptical about talking to you about Jesus, like immediately. But perhaps they would be less intimidated by just giving them something and say, hey, did you get one of these? And then they ask the question, oh, what is it? And I say, oh, it is a gospel tract. Has anyone ever taken the time to show you how you can be sure you're going to heaven when you die? So I've used the tract not as an excuse to run away and not preach the gospel, but I've actually used it as an open door to have a conversation with somebody about their salvation. Amen. So that's how I like to use them. Preaching really means proclaiming the gospel. It doesn't mean that you have to yell and scream on a street corner, but preaching can be something that happens in a conversational tone over the little message, over a little gospel tract. So I like to use them to share the gospel with another person. So again, what I like to do is I hand them a tract and say, hey, did you ever get one of these? Or have you seen one of these? And when they ask me what it is, then I say, it is a gospel tract. Has anyone ever taken the time to show you how you can be sure you're going to heaven when you die? It's a great opportunity. Now, there are some tracts that I don't have one with me, but there's one tract that I really, really like. It's a great interactive tool. It's called the Smart Card, and on the center of it, it actually has a fingerprint or a box, and it has instructions on the front that says, place your thumb here for 8 seconds or 15 seconds, and if it turns green, it means you are good enough to go to heaven when you die, or good enough, you're a good person and able to go to heaven. So your person will stick their thumb on there, and they will bob their head as they silently count to 8 or 15, and then they'll take away their finger. And the thing is, it doesn't turn green for anybody. They say, oh, it didn't turn green. What does that mean? You see, now it is a great, great opportunity because they've asked me. They've given me permission to speak into their life about whatever this thing is. And so I say, well, that's because you are just like everybody else. None of us are good enough to make it to heaven on our own. That's why Jesus had to come and die. And many times I will leave the conversation right there. I've planted a seed. And just kidding. Thank you for tuning in to Go and Preach with Reverend Stewart. And I hope that you'll come back next time to finish off this session.